So you have Google Ads up and running, and maybe it's producing some pretty decent results, maybe it's not, but you want to take it to the next level and really start producing some amazing results and start making some money. Well, in this video, I'm going to walk you through how to optimize your entire Google Ads campaign from top to bottom, step by step. Now, I'm going to pull up one of the actual test campaigns we played around with a few years ago so you can see some actual data and how we go about making changes in an actual account that has real data inside of it. But first, I would highly recommend getting the checklist that I'm going to be using so you can follow along everything we're doing, and it will make your life a whole bunch easier. The checklist we're going to be using looks like this. It goes over weekly, monthly, every 3 months, and the actual results of your campaign, and really everything you need to be optimizing on a regular basis. The link for this can be found down below. Now, as you can see, this is our old account. We ran a ebook campaign and a sales campaign as well on this for our Google Ads company. And really, this was just experimenting with broad match, seeing how it was doing with the new AI. Really, we still don't like broad match, and this just went to prove that it didn't have fantastic results, but it was good at experimenting. So now, how would we actually start by optimizing our Google Ads campaign? And the first thing we have to do is actually go over our keywords. And keywords can be found right in here. I would pick one campaign. We're going to go with the search campaign for sales campaign here, just because there's a little bit more data in it, and it will make it easier to show you what I mean by the actual optimizations and the actual checklist. So what we're going to do is click on our campaign, and then all we have to do is hit keywords. What I like to do right off the bat is go through our actual keywords and see how they're performing. Right now, we don't have a ton of data in this, but what I would recommend doing, and this is a good rule of thumb, if your keywords have 10 clicks or more and there's no conversions, chances are this is a bad keyword. Now, if you're using broad match, it doesn't apply as much, but normally I recommend using exact match or phrase match. Specifically, exact match, if you have 10 clicks, zero conversions, chances are the actual keyword itself is not good and you should pause it. So what I mean by this is actually going into your keyword, see it how it says pause right here, this little gray icon. Let's pretend this was enabled. We're just going to come over here, hit pause. And if this had 10 clicks, zero conversions, that's what I would do. I'd get rid of this keyword because it's just not going to be converting. Normally, I like to have a 20% conversion rate, which means for every 10 clicks, we get 2 conversions. And again, this is for exact match and this is for most service-based businesses. Of course, there's always exceptions to the rules, but this is a guiding principle most campaigns should follow. So as you can see here, we have 1 conversion and 9 clicks. We don't have 10 clicks yet, and I'd always recommend waiting for at least 10 clicks to actually make a decision. If you have less than 10 clicks, it's really, really difficult to make an accurate decision, and you're not actually following any of the data. And you should always follow the data and make decisions based off the data. Don't just go off intuitive feel, because that's going to bite you in the butt and you're going to have very poor results normally. So what we do is we scroll across here. As we can see, we have 11% conversion rate. We still don't have 10 clicks, so I would wait on that. But one thing is important. If you have 1 conversion out of 10 clicks, so there is a conversion and the keyword has proven to actually produce results, what I would do is actually look at the average cost per click. Say we are getting a good cost per conversion. However, our conversion rate just isn't 20%. It's like 10% or 15%, somewhere in between, but it does have a conversion. It's not zero. What I would do is look at the actual cost per conversion. If this was reasonable, say we were trying to get leads for $50 and we're getting for $35, I would leave that, especially early on in the campaign. If we don't have any other keywords that are producing results, leave this keyword because it is producing results. Yes, it may not have a 20% conversion rate, but if it is producing a very good cost per conversion, I would say leave it, especially for most service-based businesses. Once you get a few keywords running, even if the conversion rate isn't perfect, I'd like it to be higher. And the reason for that, it has to do with quality score, it has to do with getting lower cost per click and just making the whole system better. But right off the bat, if you don't have many conversions and you are getting a okay conversion rate, but your cost per conversion is fantastic, you're getting $35 instead of $50, leave it, keep this running. Now, when we go back to our Google Ads optimization checklist here, as you can see, we covered pause poorly performing keywords, and this really just covers everything I just said. What we're going to be doing now is adding negative keywords and adding relevant keywords. So what we're going to do is go through the search terms history, and this is going to pop up every single search term someone has actually typed and our ad appeared for. If you're not familiar, Google Ads keywords, they can be very accurate and they can also be kind of lenient in what you can actually appear for. So just because you want to target digital marketing doesn't necessarily mean you're going to pop up for digital marketing, because Google deems a keyword close enough and it goes, you know what, we'll show your ad for that. And depending on if you're using broad match, phrase match, exact match, the different match types in your actual keywords, this determines how lenient Google's going to be. If you use broad match, chances are you're going to pop up for everything. If you use exact match, not as much. And that's why I recommend most companies start off with exact match, because you're just not going to burn as much money on just worthless keywords, and you don't have to spend as much time in the actual search term report, especially if you don't have that time. So I really like starting campaigns off at exact match. I think it's fantastic for a lot of companies. Now, as we can scroll through here, we can see a whole bunch of stuff. So we can see digital marketing. That's something we want to pop up for this digital marketing campaign, top marketing campaign companies near me. That's cool. What I could actually go in and do is create a brand new ad group. And that's one part of the actual optimization checklist, is to create new ad groups and add relevant keywords. Since we scroll through here, there's no real top marketing company's ad group. I would go about actually making one, especially if this is something that shows high buying intent. I would go into our actual ad groups. I would add a new ad group and I would probably name it, top marketing companies, and then I'd have ad copy running to that. And that's pretty simple to do. All you'd have to do is copy this out, build a new ad group. Very simple. That way you can expand your Google Ads campaign and allow it to get a lower cost per click and allow Google more chances to actually get conversions, because we want enough search volume. And by expanding the amount of ad groups we're getting, chances are we're going to be able to lower our cost per click. We don't want to add 400 ad groups at one time though, so add it slowly. Don't add them all at once. If it's a brand new company, of course, you can add a whole bunch at once because you're testing everything. But if you have a campaign that has been running for a while, don't add like 30 new ad groups, because chances are Google's going to get confused. It's going to go into a learning mode and you're just going to see poor results. So I would say at max, add 3, maybe even 4 ad groups at one time, give it a week, and then add another few ad groups. And as you can see, we're scrolling through and we see online sales business ideas. And that's not something we want to appear for. That has no buying intent behind it. So what we would do is actually check this off, hit add as negative, and then I would add this to the actual campaign level. You can add it to the ad group level if you wish to do so. I just find adding it to a campaign level, it's much easier and it saves you a whole bunch of time, especially if this keyword applies to everything you're doing. If this was a super niche thing, like it was like digital marketing plumbing ideas, as you can see here, you might just want to add it to one ad group, but this is something that applies to our entire campaign. We don't want to appear for that, so I would add it to the actual campaign level. What I would do is, as you can see here, it auto applies brackets, meaning it's going to go into the actual exact match type, which is going to be very precise. And that's not something we want to do with this specific keyword. We don't want anything to pop up for online sales businesses ideas or anything relevant to that. We just want to get rid of all of it. So I would remove those brackets and put it into broad match, as you can see here, and then just hit save. And now we have successfully added that keyword as a negative. I would continue scrolling through here, finding all the things I don't want to appear for, competitor brands, DIY, cheap, discount, anything that does not show high buying intent, get rid of. You don't want it inside your account. Now, once that is done, we can come back over here to keywords. So I'm going to hit search keywords. And you could have done this at the beginning, but because this is not an active campaign right now, we just want to scroll through the actual statuses and make sure all of our keywords are actually running. Again, this is a pause campaign, so it's showing not active. If this said low quality score, chances are there's something wrong with your ad or your landing page, and you're going to have to go in and fix that. That's just an indicator of other problems in this account, and that's something to just keep in mind when you're going through the rest of this checklist, and just think like, okay, this keyword isn't running because of X, Y, and Z problem. So that's just important to keep in mind, and then what we can do about that later on. So now we have officially reviewed all of our keywords, so we can just check these off because we are done. We can type in the date we optimize that. I'm not going to do that just because I'm lazy. And now we're going to actually go into review ad copy. And I should make an important note here. This can be done at different intervals. If you have a ton of traffic, you could be optimizing your keywords every 24 to 72 hours. It's really up to how much traffic you're getting in and how much data you can read and actually verify. If you're only getting a handful of clicks every week, you might even want to optimize this on a 2-week basis just because your budget is really low or there's a low amount of search volume. It's really up to you, and you kind of have to use your own intuition on this. You need to understand like, hey, I need at least 10 clicks and I'm not going to get 10 clicks per keyword at least for 2 weeks, so maybe I shouldn't optimize it every week. I should optimize it every 2 weeks. You got to use your own intuition there and figure out what is best for this particular account, because you don't want to over optimize. If you're changing every little thing too often, you're not going to be able to identify actual metrics that matter in the account. And essentially, you're going to optimize yourself to death because you're optimizing things in the account that don't need optimization yet. And you're just making guesses on actually what's going to perform. So stay away from over optimization and make a game plan. Now we're going to go on to review ad copy. And this is going to be done either on a weekly basis or I would say even every 2 weeks you can do this. What we're going to do is come over here to ads and assets. And then as you can see, we have a whole bunch of ads here. I'm just going to click on, let's see what actual ad had the most clicks. So this was the actual general one. So we can scroll down here just so it's a little easier to see and understand here. And as you can see, we've had 13 clicks on this ad. And what I like to do is actually look through the click-through rate. And every industry is a bit different, and you kind of got to figure out what your average industry click-through rate is in your area. Normally in a service-based business, you can safely say 4% click-through rate or above is a good click-through rate. I prefer having a 5% click-through rate, but really some industries, it's just really difficult to get a 5% click-through rate just due to all the competitors, and maybe the actual customers just don't click on the ads that much. There's a lot of factors, but we are trying to aim for at least a 4% click-through rate. Now, I would normally, again, wait 10 clicks and then make a decision on the actual click-through rate here. If this has 0 clicks and if you have 100 impressions, chances are the ad's bad and you can just get rid of it. The same principle goes. All you have to do is come over here to the green button, hit pause, and you will pause the ad. You will no longer show for it, but we're going to keep that ad on. What I would recommend doing for your ads is actually, once you have a ad that isn't working, you've identified that, hey, this has 10 clicks, this is just not working, or it's got, 2 clicks and 100 impressions and it's just dead. I don't want to show for this anymore. What I would do is pause the losing ad. So I'd hit pause so we wouldn't be showing for this ad anymore, and then copy out the winning ad. So I would check this off, hit edit, hit copy, and then paste the winning ad into this specific ad group and then rewrite it so you can have a better chance of success, because I would rather double out the winning ad than double out the losing ad and try to make it a winner. You can also look at the actual cost per conversion here and the amount of conversions. If you have a cost per conversion, it's really low. Even if your click-through rate is really low, say it's like, 2.5%, whatever, but you have a super low cost per conversion, I would say keep that around until you have something to actually replace it with. And this can take a while, especially if you have a lot of ads, to figure out what ad is going to be doing well, just because it takes a lot of time for the data to accumulate. So if you're doing this on a 2 or 3 week basis, even a monthly basis, that's completely fine. Really, on a weekly basis, if we're looking through the ads, I'm looking for any real issues, like if this click-through rate is 0.01%, or it has a status error which says this ad is not running because of XYZ, you have a typo, it is marketing for, services that we don't offer. There's just an actual issue that does not run the ad at all or very rarely. This is something we want to identify on a weekly basis so we can run these ads and get the results. Now, after we optimize our ads inside Google Ads, again, finding any losing ads, pausing them, and then doubling out the winning ads so we can get a higher quality score, so we can get a lower cost per click, so we can get more leads and have more account success. Once we've done all that, I would go over here to the actual recommendations tab. I'd click on our actual campaign again, hit recommendations, and then I would look over what Google is actually recommending us. If Google says, hey, we have a whole bunch of keywords we should add, or maybe you should up your target CPA by a couple dollars, and that way you'll get, 20 more leads or something like that, I would take that into consideration on what we're going to do with the account. But most of the time, these recommendations aren't great. And most of the time, it just says, put everything in a broad match and it'll be fine. Don't do that, especially if you're starting off with exact match. I know Google will tell you to do this. Don't do that, especially if you're not familiar with Google Ads, because you're going to waste a whole bunch of money. Yes, it does give Google a whole bunch of leverage and allows Google's AI to target essentially whatever it wants, but you're going to spend so much money on stuff you really don't want to be targeting. I would suggest really taking all of Google Ads recommendations with a grain of salt before implementing everything. And the final thing to be checking on a weekly basis, I would recommend going over the billing, and just to make sure everything is still running. Like, you don't want your credit card to decline. That's super important. Make sure it's up to date. Usually you'll get a notification saying, hey, your ads are not running because your billing is not working. You can also check out billing up here in tools and settings. It's right below my face. I'll move this down. You can see this here in summary. Just make sure sure your credit cards and debit cards are actually working if you're using one of those to actually pay Google. That way your Google Ads campaigns continue to run, they don't pause, and you can optimize for month after month and allow your Google Ads to get a lot better. If you pause a campaign for too long, chances are it's going to see decreased performance when you start it up again because Google's AI has to figure out a whole bunch of stuff again, and that's not somewhere we want to be. So that's everything we should be optimizing on a weekly basis. Now on to a monthly basis. All right, so we're going to come back here to our Google Ads optimization checklist. We're going to come down here, hit monthly, and now there's quite a bit of stuff to actually do in the monthly tab, but a lot of it is very similar. So I'm going to kind of skim over some of it just because it is very similar to what you have to do to optimize a lot of the stuff. But that being said, we're still going to go in depth enough to actually figure this stuff out and optimize the account. So what we have to do is come back here to keywords, and really you want to assess search volume. If you come into your Google Ads account and let's say we hit overview and we see like 280 impressions over the course of a couple weeks or even a month, this is indicative of a search volume problem. If you're not getting enough impressions, chances are you're not targeting enough keywords. There could be something wrong with your ad. There's a lot of stuff that could be wrong with your account. If this is the case, you might want to consider switching the actual keyword type to maybe phrase match or exact match, depending on how quickly you want to get those impressions in and depending on your actual industry. Now, if we were to do that, we can come over here to keywords and we can simply hit match type. We can come down here to phrase match, exact match, whatever you want to do, and then just click and change it to broad match or phrase match, whatever you want to do. Normally, if you're not spending your budget, this is a solution. There's a lot of other solutions that I would attempt before doing this, but this is a solution. Normally, this isn't my favorite solution. I would consider expanding the area first, looking at the search partners network, maybe enabling that, adding more keywords. There's a lot of other stuff I would do before doing that, but that is something you could do on a monthly basis, especially if you are really struggling with search volume. If you are spending your whole budget, though, you're getting lots of impressions, everything is good, you can then consider reducing even further. Like, hey, if we're running phrase match, you could turn it down to exact match so you have more control. It's really up to you for that. This is more of a emergency situation. I wouldn't recommend actually changing match type every single month. This is just if in the first month you see absolutely no search impression, this is something you might want to do. But that's pretty self-explanatory. If you need to up search impression, there's a lot of ways to do it, and that's one of them. So the next thing is we're going to review the actual auction insights. And if we actually come over here to auction insights here, we're going to see a whole bunch of our competitors, which is kind of cool. And we can see all of the impression share. And normally, if you're comparing week after week and you see a significant drop in impression share and you weren't really keeping track of any of this, chances are there's possibly a new competitor or someone has up their budget in Google Ads, and now you really got to compete. As you see here, we're less than 10%. I haven't compared month over month, so I don't know if there's any new competitors, but if there is a new competitor, that's something to keep track of just so you can understand, like, okay, we were getting these results and then it slowly declined or it went up, whatever it is. And this is why we have a new competitor in the marketplace, or maybe they spent more money, they spent less money. It's just a good idea to keep an eye on your competitors and compare month after month just to see what they're spending so you can adjust your budget as well. The next thing is review landing pages. This is super important. I'm not going to get super detailed here just because landing pages are a thing onto their own, but you should be going over your headlines, descriptions, calls to action, trying to optimize everything, redoing your social proof, and really trying to get your landing page to as high of a conversion rate as possible. This will allow you to get better results, get more leads, and have more success overall inside your account. But as you can see here, test new headlines, make sure the landing pages load quickly, make sure the URL is working, make sure everything is up and running properly, and that really ties into conversion tracking. If you're running landing pages, please make sure your conversion tracking is working. That is the absolute worst feeling, to actually go into Google Ads, spend a whole bunch of money, and you're like, where are my leads coming in? I know my phone's ringing. Why is nothing being tracked? And that's because maybe a conversion tracking action is just not being tracked properly. Maybe there's an integration issue. Please make sure you actually go into Google Ads. I'll move my face again here. Come over here to tools and settings. We're going to hit conversions. Please make sure all of these status tags are active and you're getting results into your actual account. You need these actual results and data into the account if we are to optimize the account. If we don't have that, you are not going to be able to optimize the account and you're just going to be stuck with whatever you're getting. So in order to actually optimize, you need to make sure all of your conversion actions are set up properly. There's a ton of tutorials out there if you're using your own website, if you're using landing pages. We have one for landing pages. But there's a ton of different conversion actions you can set up to actually ensure that you're getting data into the account. Please make sure to do that. Please make sure it is working on a monthly basis at least, because we don't want to wait a whole bunch of time and then go, oh, we're not getting any conversions, because that's going to be absolutely terrible for your account and you're not going to know what's working inside your account. So please make sure to do that at least on a monthly basis. Make sure everything is up and running and you're good to go. The next thing to do is actually check our ads and extensions. You can do this, I would say, even on a biweekly basis or monthly basis, depending on how much data you're getting into the account. But first thing you need to check is to check to make sure your extensions are actually running. Normally this comes up in the recommendations tab like, hey, your structured snippet extension isn't running or your site link extension isn't running due to a bad URL. Make sure all of that is actually running. It will say status error or something of like that. Let's see here, it says limited policy, trademarks in text. And that's not something we want. We want to make sure all of our extensions are running. That way our ad is as big as possible because we want people to actually see our ad. The bigger it is, the more likely it is to be clicked on. The higher click-through rate is, the lower cost per click will be because of a higher quality score. We're going to get more clicks, more leads, more account success. It's a big circle, and you're going to have much more success if all of these extensions are running. That's the main point here. But when it comes to optimization, you're going to be looking at the amount of clicks you have, the impressions, the click-through rate. We kind of want this to be above 4%. It's not very difficult to have an extension above 4%, but we really want to try get above 4%, which is very similar to our ads. And then we're going to actually check our columns. We're going to add in, I'm going to add in conversions, cost per conversion here. And this just allows me to see like, hey, we are getting, conversions with these extensions. There's a good cost per conversion. If you see this has 50 impressions or 100 impressions, normally it will just die after 50 impressions. Sometimes it'll go to 100, but if it's 50 impressions, 0 clicks, chances are this extension is not running well. You can just come over here again, pause it much like the ad, and then try and replace it with one that is working, make it look a little different, but pick the winning one, copy it out. Same thing with the keywords like we did earlier, and just try to constantly increase your click-through rate, try to increase the actual amount of impressions you're getting, try to increase the amount of conversions, lower the cost per conversion. And again, there are circumstances where you'll have a great click-through rate, you'll have a ton of clicks, and then the cost per conversion is just sky high, and you're like, why does this one extension just have a super high, sky high conversion rate? And that might be a deciding factor on to pause this actual extension. Again, make sure you have enough data actually back this up. Make sure you have at least 10 clicks if you're going to actually look at the cost per conversion here. You might even want more than that depending on how many clicks you're getting. But this is something you should be looking over. Make sure it has a decent click-through rate. Make sure it has, a decent amount of impressions and not a sky-high cost per conversion. Another thing to note is please make sure you have all of the relevant extensions. I see this in a lot of accounts. Your site link extension, call it extension, snippet extension, call extension, all of these can be used for the most part in almost every single account. Even location extensions can be used in almost every business. Um, Please make sure they're actually in here. Please make sure you're actually trying to improve them. It's more difficult to run a Google Ads account if you don't have all these, basic extensions just because your ads aren't going to be as big. So please make sure all of these are actually in here and they're running. So that's good to know. Also, make sure to edit this at a campaign level. Don't edit it at a ad group level, because if you edit it at an ad group level, it's going to be very time consuming and you're going to have to rewrite all of these extensions out for every single ad group. Please do it at the campaign level. It will save you a whole bunch of time. Now, the next thing to do is actually go over the actual quality score of the keywords. And normally, if you have a super low quality score, there's probably something wrong with the ad. So what I would recommend doing is adding quality score to your columns. It's really easy to do. All you have to do is hit columns and then check off quality score. And when we come across here, if this said 3 out of 10, expected click-through rate is low and our landing page is, maybe our landing page is good, but say our ad relevance, which is also here, ad relevance is low and expected click-through rate is low, chances are there's an ad problem. And this is indicative of we need to create ads that are more relevant to this keyword. People who are typing this in are seeing our ad, they're not clicking on it, and we really need to actually create out a new ad group and figure out how to market this keyword better, how to actually draw people in. This isn't always indicative of not having the super relevant keyword. It could just have a low click-through rate and Google could just improperly identify it. However, most of the time, if you have a super low quality score and that's below 5 out of 10, I would really suggest taking these keywords, building them out into their own ad groups, making more relevant keywords. And it's a very good judge of, hey, your ads are just not relevant enough. You need more ad groups. You need more relevant text to actually get a higher click-through rate. That way we can have a higher quality score. Google's going to give us a discount on our cost per click, and we're going to be able to get more leads and more success in our overall account. So again, we check quality score in the actual search keywords, and then we just scroll across and we can find our quality score there. Another thing you could also do is if this is in broad match or phrase match and you still have a super low quality score, you could also consider reducing it down to exact match. That'll give you more control over who's being shown these ads. And generally, you can boost the actual quality score because you're not actually showing it to all that many people. Therefore, you can get a higher click through rate and you should have better success. You can also go into your landing page. I would really suggest having the keywords you're targeting in your landing page. So if you have a heating and cooling marketing as a keyword you're targeting, I would suggest having that exact keyword somewhere in your landing page, preferably somewhere near the top. That way Google sees it. It goes, okay, this landing page is very relevant and we should be showing this to the actual customer. And you'll more than likely be able to bump up your quality score quite a bit if you're able to actually integrate that keyword in a way that doesn't look like it's purposely placed there, not just like heating and cooling marketing, like actually have it somewhere in the description or maybe even in the first headline, whatever it is, try and fit it in there. That way Google reads over the page and it goes, yep, this is what this is about. And again, this is an AI. It's scrolling through the data, it's skimming through it, and it recognizes certain keywords, and it's trying to do its best to figure out if this is relevant to the customer or not. By adding that keyword to your landing page, chances are you're going to be able to up that quality score and get better results long term for your Google Ads account. The second last thing we have to do is actually review the budget, and that's pretty easy to do. All we have to do is come up here to overview. If you have multiple campaigns, you'll just hit all campaigns, but for this one, we're just going to actually click on the one campaign, and all we have to do is come over here. I would suggest changing this to budget, so where do we cost? And as you can see, we spent $342. If this was across 1 month and say our budget was $5,000 and we had spent $342, that's a sign that we are not spending our budget and we need to increase the actual search impressions we're getting. There's a lot of ways to do that. I list them down below here. Like I said before, you can also change match type, but I wouldn't recommend that right off the bat. I think that's a little aggressive, but it is an option you have to do. If your budget is being spent, chances are you're in a good place and you just have to figure out how to optimize the actual keywords you're using and try and narrow down on the best producers. So keep the winners when it comes to keywords, extensions, ads, and get rid of the losers. That way we can double down, we can see better results, we can get a lower cost per conversion, more conversions, and just have better account success overall. The final thing we have to do in here is bid optimizations. And this is very similar to almost all of them: days of the week, locations, devices, demographics, audiences. What we have to do is actually scroll down here. I'm going to click on add schedule. What we can actually do is if, say, Monday and Tuesday were performing really well, we had a super low cost per conversion, it's $20. We're aiming for a $50 cost per conversion. What we can do is actually increase this by 5 or 10%. I wouldn't recommend going any more than that. And the reason being is if we increase this by a large margin, say like 80%. Google really doesn't like large changes, and I've come to know this over time. Don't change a whole bunch of stuff at once. It will backfire, I promise you, and you will waste a whole bunch of money because it'll send Google back into learning mode. So change this by 5, 10%, maybe even 15%, but I wouldn't go over that. Tell Google, hey, we're getting leads for really low cost. I'm willing to spend more money because I want more leads for this super low cost. That's good. If we had a cost per conversion which was super high, so it's $80 and we're aiming for $50, I would decrease this to maybe, let's say, 10. Yeah, 10% is fine. You could even do 15% depending on how different the range is, and then I'd come back and check it again. Again, there's a lot of other factors in Google Ads other than just the days of the week, so we don't know exactly if this is a day problem, if this is a keyword problem, if this is, an audience problem. There's a lot of things in Google Ads, so I wouldn't make massive changes to it because maybe the day does have some factor playing into why your cost per conversion is really low or really high, but it might not have all the factors playing into it. So make small adjustments and then go back, optimize little by little, and change this 5, 10%. I think that's fine, and you should have a very good campaign going forward. Now we can also optimize locations, do the exact same thing, go through here, find your locations and optimize them. Very simple to do. Same here it goes with devices. Again, I would wait at least a month. You don't want to be doing this with just 10 clicks, and that goes for locations and ad schedule. You need at least, I would say, 50 to 100 clicks in here before you want to start touching anything. That's just because we don't really have enough data to say, is this a mobile phone problem? Is this a landing page problem? Is this a location problem? We want a lot of data to go, okay, there is something here. The day of the week does affect this, then we want to adjust. We don't really want to make massive adjustments. That's why I say keep this to a monthly optimization. Don't make this a weekly optimization. You can also come over here to audiences as well and make adjustments on your audiences. You can hit show table and then make slight bit adjustments here if there is a massive difference in cost per conversion. But again, do this on a monthly basis. Don't do this on a weekly basis because you need enough data. Same thing goes with the actual demographics. You can adjust age, you can adjust gender, you can adjust household income. And like everything before, if something is performing terribly and there's just no fixing it, you've given it a month or two, you can by all means turn it off. Maybe you don't want to show for a certain area, a certain day of the week, certain device, certain audience. That's completely fine. You can pause it. You can pause it just like everything else inside of Google Ads. You just have to go in there, hit the green button, and you can pause it. So that's how to actually optimize all of this stuff. It's very similar. It does take quite a bit of time, but if you do this, it will make a massive difference inside your account, and you will see a lot more success inside Google Ads. Now, everything on a 3-month basis that should be adjusted and optimized. This is really where I look at the overall strategy on a 3 monthly basis. What is our campaign goal? Is it leads? Is it website views? What is it? And is this on the correct track to get us there? Are we, producing leads that we want? Is the actual target CPA or whatever we're going for reducing? There's a lot of things that I ask myself on a 3-month basis, like, okay, is this still what the client wants, or is that this what the business owner wants? That's really what we want to be doing on a 3-month basis. There's one important thing I would also recommend doing is if you're running target CPA, you went from maximized cost per click to, target CPA, or you started off with target CPA. If you're going into actual Google Ads, I would recommend if you're overperforming, so say we had a target CPA of, $50 and we're getting leads for $38. I would recommend reducing that to $38 to signal to Google, hey, I know we are capable of getting leads for $38. I'm going to set this instead of 50 where it was at, I'm going to set it down to $38 and tell Google, try and get leads for $38. Don't experiment at $50 anymore. We want to bring this down as low as possible and tell Google that's what we want. So that's what I would do. Again, just come into your settings, hit bidding, hit save, and you're good to go. Another thing you want to be doing is, does the budget need to change? Do we need to up the budget? Do we need to lower the budget? What does the business owner want to do? What do you want to do? Does the conversion tracking need to be changed? Are we only going to be doing, phone calls? Is there an issue with one of the conversion trackings? Does the overall account structure need to be changed? Are we including a new service? Are we getting rid of a service? Are the new seasons affecting this campaign? And really just coming up with a game plan. And you could leave a note over here too, like, okay, this is what we're doing. We're targeting this service because fall is coming. We're not going to be, able to install pools anymore. So we're going to be shifting over to landscaping or something like that. That's what I would do. And then leave a little note and then go in there and figure out what your campaign is going to look like and go from there. You can also go over the correct locations, make sure those are still being targeted correctly. You haven't changed your business, the business hasn't moved. Make sure all of the services that we want to target are there and that they're profitable. And once we do all of that, we can come over to campaign results, list out all of our campaign results, and then compare it to month after month. Make sure we're getting a lower cost per lead. Make sure we're getting, a decent amount of impressions, good clicks. Also comparing cost per phone call to cost per email inquiry. That's very interesting because some businesses, they hate emails. I know quite a few guys who just will not take emails. So it is very interesting to look at, okay, is a phone call more profitable or is an email more profitable? So that's it for optimization. This was a very quick overview of the actual optimization. Again, if you want this checklist, it's down below. It really will help, I would think, almost anyone inside Google Ads, especially if you're a service-based business. This is absolutely phenomenal. It allows you to not forget anything. And you got to remember, even pilots use a checklist when taking off. So if they're using a checklist, if you're running Google Ads, you should probably also use a checklist. I use it just in case I forgot anything. You can leave notes down here. You can leave it as last optimized. It's just super fantastic for really going over everything, optimizing your Google Ads account, and really making sure your Google Ads account is running well. So I do have one massive favor to ask from you, and that is to hit the like button or the dislike button. If you absolutely hated this video, it's up to you, but I would really appreciate it. I put a whole bunch of time into actually making this video, and I think it is a very, very detailed video and one of the best out there for the optimizations of Google Ads. And it really goes over the nitty gritty stuff. So a thumbs up would really be appreciated. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, by all means, leave a comment down below. I'd be happy to answer it. Other than that, you guys have a wonderful day and take care. I wish you well.